Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is the back of the room.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. The Verona Board of Education passed a resolution at its meeting held on January 8th, 2013. The meeting set forth the schedule of its regular meetings, which resolution was within 7 days of passage. The schedule was sent to the Verona Seabrook Times, the Star Ledger, the Herald News, the Township of Verona, and the Verona Education Association. Postings of this meeting setting forth the time, location, and agenda were posted in each of Verona's 6 schools, the board office, and town hall. This posting was also sent to the newspapers, all SCA presidents, and SCA liaisons. The Verona Board of Education operates under consent agenda format. Any board member has a right to have an item pulled to be voted upon or discussed separately. Copies of tonight's agenda and resolutions have been made available to the public present. Mr. Elliott?
here.
Mr. Block? Here. Mr. Bolino?
Here.
Mr. Yunus?
Here.
Mr. Quattrochi?
Here. Okay, welcome to our meeting tonight, and we'll get right into our agenda here. First off, do we have any public comment on any agenda item? Any questions? Okay, Mr. Forte has a short update or overview. This is a presentation that was normally done in September when we return to school to recap when we publish our district fact book, which was issued back in September or the beginning of October. And then we'll go through a quick summary that's going to be publicly presented.
I'm going to do a short update on, actually on some goals, due to the fact that the district fact book, we did speak about several times throughout the year, but I will talk a little bit about it at the end. In August, there were a series of 5 goals that were approved by the Board of Education and the County Superintendent's Office, and I wanted to update you on them. The first one was that we would see an increase in revenue from news sources. So an update on that is, and this would be June 1 to June 2012 to June 2013. So an update is we received $72,000 in additional aid, and some other updates. We have $4,000 in rental revenue from the New York Yankees, and currently, as of today, we have signed $16,000 in contracts for advertising. The second objective was to see a 0% increase in administrative costs. It would be early to say that we can accomplish this, but we did make some cuts from the 12-13 budget to the 13-14 budget. Quantitative objective number 3. The goal was to actually decrease the number of students that were partially proficient in math in grade 7. These scores will come out in August of 2013, and the tests take place in the spring. We did hire some additional staff in that area, new staff in that area. I'm pretty confident that our results will be positive in August. Qualitative objective number 1 is that we prepare and create a new 5-year strategic plan, and an update on that. Our steering committee has already met, our action teams are created, and the action team kickoff program is set for February 20th. And then qualitative objective number 2 was that in the high school we'd have an option for students to earn college credit. So we signed agreements and relationships with 6 different schools: Fairleigh Dickinson, Seton Hall, Colwell College, Bergen County College, New Jersey Institute of Technology, and I'm pleased to announce that, this is a pen from there actually, Syracuse University Project Advance for 2013-14. So in our first year of doing this, as of now, 62 students this year are earning college credit through dual enrollment. And we look to expand our summer program with possibilities from Colwell College and NJIT as well. Now, the goals page on the the goals page on the strategic plan were basically the things we just talked about, is to implement the current plan, develop the next plan. So we will have a lot more updating to do in the spring, and when we get closer toward the end of this current plan, we'll have an update on how far we went with the plan. Any questions about any of this merit goal updating? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, let's do athletics first.
Athletics had an opportunity to meet today. We discussed the two policies. We had a chance to review policy 5530, which was, one of them was the substance abuse policy, which is what we talked about naming today. And then 5600 is the people discipline code of conduct. So one of the things, if you remember back when we first talked about revising the policies, we were separating them out. One was to put substance abuse separate from people discipline and conduct. So I had a chance to read through and take some notes. We're going to be talking about the people discipline code at the next committee meeting in person. And we had sometimes talked about substance abuse policy. There's no committee recommendation at this time, just because we have to meet on the second policy as well. Just have a more in-person meeting on the other one too. But we are currently moving forward in that direction, so there's activity happening. We also have Gina Barati, who was nominated for, nominated or accepted into the Coach Hall of Fame, right? Which is a huge accomplishment, and we want to definitely recognize him for that as well.
And that's the NJSAA, the state, the entire state Hall of Fame.
Yeah, which is just magnificent. So congratulations to Gina Barati. We also had recognition for, my names are escaping me, another coach too. I know it's like completely misplaced right now. It's incredible. Yeah, and it wasn't on the agenda. It was hard because we were in the car doing this, so we're gonna do in person next time, just to make sure I can lead responsibly and have all those together. We don't have the.
It was about a coach?
Yeah, there's another recognition, what to say. So we won't be doing phone next time. You know, keep it down. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things we tried to do a phone conversation this time doesn't work pretty well because it's hard to drive and talk and rail at the same time. So we're going to do sitting down next time. But there's another recognition we do want to mention. So we're going to text much appreciated and see if we can get that.
That's not a resolution.
No, it's not a resolution tonight. It's just a recognition, making sure that we're doing them. Now, there was the joint committee from the Verona Board of Education, the Montclair Kingsley Academy, and this is one of the moving forward in the contract is a section 11 which says that there would be 3 members from MKA and 3 members from Verona that would meet together to oversee the maintenance and welfare and safety of the track. So I'm proud to say that we definitely are moving forward in terms of nominations. There are 3 people from Verona and 3 people from MKA. And we had a meeting today, we were all in the same room, we were able to really hash out a plan in using the information from buildings and grounds, using the information from the finance committee, and putting it all in place and looking at what's the timeline for the patch work, what's the timeline for the summer work, how is this going to impact Montclair Kingsley Academy, Verona Public Schools, the Recreation Department, and the public, because I know there is definitely a large use of the track for the public. And being able to have that all in one meeting on one sheet of paper is very beneficial. So that was definitely a success. We're going to continue with that joint committee moving forward, and we'll have a recommendation of names to approve shortly. If you have any questions around that area, definitely please let me know during this time. And that would be all for our athletics and co-curricular at this time. That That was one thing.
So it was a lot.
Locker room, one more thing. Sure, yeah, so we had a, you wanna mention?
Yeah, I saw Mr. Marr in the back too, so it was a mention about how Mr. Marr arranged for some students to do some community service and help paint the weight room. So that was one of the things we discussed in the committee as well.
And then just moving forward, so I know we wanted to try the phone, not in person. We just moving forward, just for me to be able to lead responsibly and make sure I'm on top of the game with notes and everything. For Dawn, Steve, can we move back to Tuesdays, 5:30?
I have that on the agenda, but can we talk about all of them later?
Later, you want to do it later?
Okay, if you don't mind, we'll talk about all committee, if you want to go committee by committee. The only thing is, that might not, probably better to talk about all together.
Sounds good, so just later on, if you try to find a time that's in person for this.
Sure. All right,
I have a co-curricular comment to make, is that tomorrow, not having heard otherwise, tomorrow, fifth grade is leaving on their environmental trip, I assume,
Correct.
not hearing otherwise. And I don't think they'll be staying in a five-star hotel. You have to do their walk through the woods. One of the things that does concern me, I did read the information brochure from the camp itself, and it indicates that the cabins that these students will be staying in is equipped with smoke detectors and CO2 detectors. And I would like to be assured that the person who's in charge of the trip checks that out before the students check into the room. Not that they just say it on a piece of paper, and not that he just looked up at the ceiling and said, are they there or not there. I'd like to know that they are working, the fire alarms, the smoke detectors, and the CO2 detectors are in working order before students move into the building. And I'd like to be informed of that sometime tomorrow, that they're sure that those detectors are working. In all cabins, the students are staying in.
And there's actually one more note I want to make. Just for the spring track season, the first two meets for MK and Verona, we cannot guarantee that we'll be able to run them on our home field. They're kind of early this year. We need weather to be 42 degrees or higher to patchwork the track for right now. So we are looking for other places to hold those first meets, but we are pretty confident that the rest of the season we'll be able to go out as scheduled for spring track.
Another note about the trip, Mr. Molino, is I will be on the trip tomorrow night. I'm staying.
Well, and I'd like to call from you tomorrow night around 6 o'clock, telling me that all the alarms are working.
Yep, and I'm taking my son too, so I'll make sure that we're all squared away.
Hope you have a good time.
I'm sure I will.
Hope you bring your muck-ups with
It's
you.
about my 7th time going on this, so it should be fun.
all right, curriculum update, education committee, we met yesterday morning. We reviewed, we have resolution 5 that we reviewed on textbook for a business class that we have going on now. That's approved spend. February 19th is a professional development day for the first phase, or one of the first phases for the teacher eval new evaluation system. The staff training for that and how that's going to work as imposed by the state. We reviewed implementation for Reader's Workshop for K2, where we already have this in place for grades 3 and 4. So this is the next step in implementation for Reader's Workshop. We have a resolution 4 for the district calendar, which we've discussed in the past. We just went through that one more time. That is, again, for the current school year. There was an adjustment made for another professional development day that we need to do in May 23rd, 24th. Elementary planning progress for elementary gifted and talented / STEM implementation continues. That is for implementation in the coming year. We reviewed some of the details in the curriculum budget for the 13-14 budget as part of our annual budget process. Talked about the BC business plan, which is the annual business plan for the summer enrichment academy that we run every year. No real change to that, other than continuing what we did when Mr. Forte joined last year, where we'll have some college credit as well as part of BC. There's a staff attendance policy update that every board member should be receiving. I believe it was in the packet, but it was in the email board knows. That's not up for first reading yet, but take a look at it. There are some changes in there.
I'll send it back out to.
Do you mind just sending a quick snapshot of the changes? I'll read the.
Yeah, highlight, yeah, like
It's all in house. There's just like one, there's like 3 lines.
We reviewed the sub and maternity replacement list for approval. And we talked about the spring curriculum update that Ms. Jewett will do on the April 30th meeting, assuming that there are no other conflicts with that day due to the budget cycle and the rest. Mr. Forte will do an update on, you want to talk tonight about the special education class?
Yes, it's on my agenda.
Okay, any questions on the education team? Community resources met yesterday afternoon as well. The strategic action plan action teams have been set. We have a fair number of volunteers, students, parents, staff, administrators, and Verona citizens in general, plus township representation, police, township management, etc. The chairs for each action team have been set. That training for the chairs is happening tomorrow, the 13th of February. And the action teams themselves will have a kickoff meeting on February 20th, all together at once, so they can get the marching orders and all the goals and initiatives of the action teams in the town. Building and grounds?
Buildings and grounds to meet this evening. It was a rather lengthy agenda, actually. Some of it was overlapped with what Mr. Eunice was speaking about. We talked about the issues with the track. We did receive a proposal for architectural and engineering services from our current architect of record, Mylan Associates, and they quoted us for those services at $29,000. Got a little bit of sticker shock on that one, but so we're going to seek alternate proposals, and also I spoke to the town about it, and their feeling is that, or at least a good portion of that, really around the drainage issue, is that the town engineer will be able to sign up on the project. So we're going to try to work with the town as much as possible on doing that. So there still may be an expense associated with that, specific to the engineering services around the track, but it'll be substantially less than the $29,000 that they're speaking of, probably closer to around $10,000. As Mr. Eunice mentioned, as soon as the weather allows, we're going to start the pickup process, but we just need to have the weather cooperate. We've also asked Mylan and DI to provide a school security proposal, and which they've done. And what that means is, if we were to make physical improvements to the security of the school, maybe things like moving the office, putting up walls, doing things of that physical thing, what would they be? So they came back with a proposal of $9,800 to complete that work. We talked about the football field in the lower field that we used last year for football games. We've written a purchase order for French Perillo to get the next phase on the football field, which is the soil testing and pit samples that we've talked about. So that's moving forward, and it'll begin later in February, again, with the committee. And also we talked about how we're going to move forward with the lower field for next year, and some of the things that maybe do differently or maybe do the same. So right now the plan is to hold football games on the lower field just like we did this past fall, for next fall, and we looked at was there ways to improve on the seating of the stands, but anything we do different would probably mean substantially higher costs. So most likely we're going to just move forward with the same setup that we had this past year, and as we work towards a more permanent solution. LGEA, a local government energy audit update. The RFP has been completed and sent for approval, along with the revised LGEA resolution. And once we get the go-ahead, we'll send out to the approved audit firms to solicit bids. And we're also meeting with Train to discuss the possibility of expediting improvements to the lighting across the district. Purchase order was written for the 5 sets of exterior doors over 4 schools that I talked about in the last meeting. So that they take about 6 to 12 weeks to fabricate, nothing is uniform, everything has to be built custom. And we should have those installed mid-April to mid-May. And we talked about the budget for next year. It's been submitted to the building project, it's been submitted to the superintendent, business administrator. Just talked about the balance in the budget, for the balance for the remainder of this year, and we're in good shape. One thing that I do want to start discussing and bring up a topic, and it's been, we've been discussing internally as a board, and also we've discussed it through Buildings and Grounds, is Mr. Forte has asked for, I'm going to give my comment here first, because Ms. Forte and I are not agreeing on this, so let me just, it'll be my spin, and after that, Mr. Forte will have a chance to respond. Mr. Forte is asked to create a new position called the title Director of Security and Emergency Preparedness. And his vision of it is it would head up security efforts throughout the district. I guess I have concerns with it, not because I'm not concerned with security of the district. Obviously, the safety and well-being of our children is one of the first things that we're concerned about, any school is concerned about. But I'm more just concerned with what this position entails and what they would do and how we can do other things. When I look at the job description, and this is, once again, this is just my opinion, my concern is that we're layering on another administrative expense when we can spend money actually doing things. Because when I look at the job description, once again, a lot of this is currently done by staff, existing principals and other administrators. We're going to be conducting a series of security audits. I mentioned earlier in my report that we'll have one around the physical plans. You know, what are we going to do in the building better from a security standpoint? We'll also have to do another audit around policies and procedures. What can we do to ensure that our schools are as safe as possible? When these two audits are complete, we're going to have 2 reports, sitting on our desk that we're going to need to implement some part of make choices. In a lot of times, it's come down to financial decisions, right? I mean, unfortunately, we don't have the unlimited resources to do everything we want to do. But we're going to have reports that are going to suggest that we do certain things, and we're going to need to find the money to do that. And I feel that we can implement these things within our current existing framework of administration, and the money that we would pay a security director for, we could use that money to do these things. So that's my take on that. And finally, if we were to explore a paid position, I would be more wanting to entertain something around SRO as opposed to just another director. But once again, Mr. Forte will explain, so I'll say as well, that's a very expensive proposition as well. Because what Mr. Forte is envisioning for the directorship is that we split it part-time with another district. So we would incur 40% expensive of this position, whereas if we were to hire an SRO, it would obviously be the full expense. So those are my concerns. I think we need to discuss this as a board, discuss how we want to proceed. But those are some of the things that I bring and I see as problematic to Mr. Forte.
Those are valid points. The position that I envision here is someone who would work part-time in our district. The person would earn from us, the salary, the cost to us would be between $20,000 and $25,000 per year. The person, and my main reason for it would be to, rather than spend $20,000 on this audit, that's approximately the cost of doing an audit from an outside agency, is that this person would do the audit and then actually do some of the things that are in the audit. And the person would standardize security in the district. This is a position that our police chief recommends that we move on. He and I sat down and helped create the job description and had several meetings about the job. And SRO is something that I'd be very interested in hearing about. It's just that my feeling is I don't want to stick to just an SRO if we can't afford to do that. If we can come up with the money to hire an SRO to do these types of things too, if the person had the experience to do these types of things, I'd be all for that. I just don't see us being able to come up with that kind of funding, so that's why I thought that this was a needed position that would help. And the title is a director, but it really wouldn't be an administrative level person. The person wouldn't be like a, like on par with the superintendent or the principals. It would be, it's the title as a director, but it's not really a, it's not a certificated staff member, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
Once again, I'm going to input from the board members.
Sure. It's time for input because I want to move on to
So my
jobs.
question is, maybe this is something like this. It's great to say we can put the burden of accountability on the existing administrators, but then something else gets lost in the mix. And I think what I like about the proposal is now you have one person and that's their sole task. And now they're assessing our needs and they're comparing us to hopefully other districts, examining other districts, and now they're spending and allocating resources to see if we're in line. Because presently, the fact that we don't have this position means, to me, while we have a degree of security, we don't have anybody ultimately responsible for it. So I think it's a great first step. It's really a first step. It's not, we're not appointing a full person, but I think it's reasonable in light of the request that the police think it's recommendable. And I just think that we've changed our perception now of what's safe, what's acceptable as safe. And I don't think we can claim that we have more security than neighboring towns. I mean, I'm not concerned, we spend more on security than neighboring towns. I don't think we're there. This hasn't really occupied any budget at all for us yet, other than building and grounds. We have a groundskeeper, but, his thinking is more maybe boiler, window, heat, and not security. So I think it's great to have one person who that's their focus, and you're saying we're sharing it with another district, so.
It would be
I don't know a lower point of entry for a human being than part-time.
well, I like the sharing idea, not only for the cost savings, but the fact that what you bring up is a good point, that they're gonna see things in two different districts now, and be able to, see things that are positive, things that are negative, and adjust things in both districts. We do have another district ready to go on this. I don't want to announce it yet, but we do have another district that wants to do it.
My question is this, if we were to go forward with the proposal as it's presented in terms of sharing services with somebody, and one or the other of us decided that we didn't want to do it any longer, we didn't think it was worthwhile or wasn't meeting our expectations, what happens to the other district? Let's say the one we were going to partner with, we hired this person, was taken on board, and at the end of the school year, they say no. And what happens, does that person still willing to do the job on a much more limited basis? I mean,
Well, it's the position, so not the person per se, but the position would continue, in my vision, as a part-time position then. It just wouldn't be shared. In other words, we could go out right now and hire a part-time person to do this job, the same amount of time. The district that I'm looking at is a little bigger than us, so it would be a 40-60 split. And so I would hire a 40% person to do the job.
Strikes me that it sounds like none of us are in disagreement to go ahead and do the audit, right? We want to at least do the audit. Where it becomes interesting is that the cost of doing the audit would be 90% of what it would cost for our share to bring a person on board full-time who would split 60-40 between ourselves and this other district, right? And one thing to be clear, because we seem to never be able to control whatever gets in the media, this is not a security guard. This is talking about one consultant, not 6 security guards and not 6 people. This is just this is someone who's a security expert to do a continuous standard, make sure that we have a standard of care on all of our security district-wide, shared with the district. I think the hesitancy around it, just reading it to the Glenn saying, is around creating a staff position, a full-time position. My suggestion would be, since it's not a guard, We're not talking about guards, and it's one person, even if he was hours full-time, he or she was hours full-time, it's one person in 6 million. I would suggest that we consider doing it on a consultative basis, not as an employee. And then, which who knows, you may find that there's a deep need for the first 6 months, and after that, the need and value of the person could dissipate. Maybe there's another district that will come in, take a look at what we've done. We've got all kinds of districts calling us on what we've done in curriculum, looking for guidance and help. The other district is a well-regarded district, it's a high-achieving district, and if they're interested, and we start putting this on the map, I'm sure I can get confidence that lots of the districts would say, yeah, I'll pay another quarter and split the guy 3 ways at some point. And that may be helpful to us. But I would consider the job description on its merits of a function being done, and then how we execute that in the person. You can do it as a staff member, you can do it as a part-time person, share, you can do it as a part-time position, or we can do it on a consultative basis, on an as-needed basis. And therefore, as far as we need, and contract with someone if we want to. I'd be concerned only because beneath that stack page, we got another 22 pages of budget. Now, right, so.
Yeah, so what's the anticipated cost on this?
Between $20,000 and $25,000.
About the same as what the audit was.
It's about the same as the other.
So basically what we're saying is, instead of just having somebody come in and do a 3-day audit, bring in a person on a more, I don't want to say permanent basis, but somebody who's here 2-3 days a week for the year, who will do the audit and then some, implement parts of the audit for us. Probably do a much more thorough and iterative audit than just a 3-day.
I think he's gonna educate our administrators about how to communicate and how to maintain it, as opposed to an audit in and out, and there's no lasting person who holds
Because the
the
person's here, because
accountability.
he's here.
Yeah, basically, with the audit, you're paying, with the audit, you're paying about $20,000, and you'll get,
Get a lovely
things like
report,
this.
but somebody has to implement that. at some point.
Right. The other way, say for the year, you're getting about 90 days worth of service from somebody instead of, I don't know, 5. And then the person takes this stuff that they saw, and then starts actually doing some of the things that they said in the audit. The other way, you get a pile and you gotta start implementing it, but there are a lot of other initiatives and other things that are
So
going
my
on.
view is, I look at the job description as do I believe that we need some person or people to be focused on these 16, this list of 16 things? If the answer to that is yes, then it becomes a more simple matter of, well, how do we get it done? If we can do it with existing staff, terrific. If we can do it with a part-time person, great. If we can do it with a shared staffer, okay. And if we can do it on a consultative basis and eliminate some of the costs, and potentially share it as we go on. The person may hit the target and say, look, I could do all of this stuff, I could do 80% of it inside of 4 months, and then after that, I could go on to another place, and be here one day, we can have these circumstances. Yeah, think about that.
And one other thing that you brought up is a great point, that using your existing staff to do some of these things. The one thing we don't have is an expert on our staff on these things. We have people like me that know how to do something,
Right.
and that have gone to training, but I'm definitely not an expert. I don't have the qualifications that we have listed up there. So even if we could push these out to people in the district, no one is an expert.
Right, it's great to say push it out to people in the district, but let's, okay, identify what now won't we be doing? Because, our administrators don't have boundless time and energy. So if you shift a new responsibility, something you've got to give. That could be time with kids, time on curriculum, I don't know, but I think it's just a fallacy if we just layer on like we did with HIV. HIV was a huge burden, right? And they handled it masterfully, but like now we're gonna go with another and every year we add on. I think it's important to be realistic about it.
Yeah, that's
We
what
want our
I'm saying.
administrators involved with our children in education, not.
So I'm saying
So
separate the,
true, but these are things that are being done currently. It's not like these aren't being done, right? I mean, maybe, like the first one, the major duty of the first one was to facilitate communication and cooperation. And that's, the thing on that list is a bullet point. Everyone does that, right?
Well, I think that's deeper than
Facilitate,
that.
But, direct CPSL safety audit requirements from the NJDOE, that's already done. That's not an issue.
Directs all in good. Okay, I mean,
That's done though, right? I mean, that's required, that's done.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're doing what the NJDOE requires.
Right, right. So that's a new function, right?
But it's not an action.
No, but it's not, I mean, that's final approval of the state, that you have to do that, right?
Well, I showed you that thing called best practices.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, you said directs and, says, I'll say the auditor requirements in NJDOE, those are currently required. It's not like that's going to be a new, so that's not a new functionality that a person comes on and also, oh, well, no one's ever done that before. Right.
We have our meeting and we go over the security plan.
That's a quick question. So, what's the difference in quality?
Let me just go, like, they communicate with local law enforcement, fire departments, buildings, ground personnel, and monitoring and surveying security needs. I mean, that's done from, that's not something that's not.
Right, but that's my point earlier, you're
How
not
do you say
disputing,
it's
you're not
done
disputing the
to
functions, you're
completion?
disputing who would do it, right? I'm just saying separate the two things. One is, do we agree on the functions, right? How we execute.
No, but I just want to be clear, these aren't new functions.
Every one of the topics in here is getting done.
Right. That's not-
By a layperson. To the best of their ability. Security?
I mean, I'm a certificated school administrator, but I definitely don't have a law enforcement background.
What's the difference between the audit you get from the audit company that does this and this gentleman?
Well, this would be like the audit company comes in, they would spend a week in our school or whatever, and we provide, give you the data, but then they leave.
Well, I gotta say it this way, we can have Strauss estimate do our policies and everything, or we can have someone who has a background and do our policies. I'd have Strauss estimate do them, right? They come in 5 days, they do our policies, good, but, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to see, if I were to put it on that same scale, if our goal is to have an audit, and the audit company, like, is equivalent to Strauss estimate, and this is a polished, pristine product we're paying for, then great. But if we're trying to, I don't know, catch more fish with our net by putting this in another person's hand, then are we diluting the quality or the efficacy of this audit, so to say,
Well, it
you know?
depends on who we hire.
I
If
mean,
we hired somebody good enough to be able to do this,
I mean,
so we do a thorough
I guess what I'm
audit.
saying is that I wouldn't have hired anyone else but Strauss Estimate to do our policies, even if they have a lifetime in doing policies, because Strauss Estimate is a company that does, school board policies, and they're good at it, you know what I mean? So I'm
Well,
thinking,
using that line of thinking, we should hire Ken Trump from Cleveland for $27,000. And we're gonna get a pile of stuff, and I'm not making this up, this is the guy, he's the guru, if you wanna do it. Anytime something happens, he's the guy you go to. He'll come in, he'll fly in, he'll do the audit, and he's gonna give us a pile of stuff. But he's not gonna do the stuff in the pile. My thing is, I'm gonna hire a guy who has qualifications, maybe he's not the guru in the country, but he's a guy that is going to, his whole career was based on what we're asking him to do. And he's gonna give us that pile, and then he's gonna start doing something.
I mean, as long as the goal is to then have an audit, everyone feels comfortable, this is the person, then I think, John's recommendation is very reasonable, which is to separate the two out. We agree this is getting done. We want an audit, we'd like to have an audit, but we're also looking for some things to be carried out, not a guard, but to carry out the responsibilities of moving this forward. But I think John's point is very reasonable. But if the goal is to have outstanding policies, then Strauss Estimate is the person. Strauss Estimate is not gonna carry them out, that's our responsibility, If this is, we're hiring, we're bringing him on a consulting basis to help us implement these things, still, to Glenn's point, it's our people doing it, right?
Wait, we're not spending anything on dedicated to security. We're asking administrators to lend an eye to an issue that has now become front and center because times have changed. The level of violence has been escalated, and we're still kind of back in the time thinking things are all great and we're all safe because we live in a nice area. And I think that argument is out the window today. We live in a nice area. A lot of people live in nice areas that have had different things happen. So do you want to be behind the ball or ahead of the curve? I feel, based on our budget, we are spending nothing on 100% security. We have nothing dedicated to security. We have buildings and grounds, we have administrators, we're also educating our kids, dealing with this, that, and the other thing, and now we're asking, well, they should do this too. Instead of having someone take a hard eye to the way you enter and leave the building ways. I understand that Newtown had an extensive security training that actually, believe it or not, lots of kids were saved because of that. So that could have been worse had they not been coached and trained. So we're saying we're gonna have an administrator do all that. Who? Which principal has more time to run through security trainings of their own staff? I just think it's our core mission to protect the kids. We shouldn't be opening these buildings unless the buildings are safe. I think
you
we're
have one
putting
guy for
security.
6 schools 40% of the time.
It's better than what we have.
And not a guard, that's
I don't want
not a
God.
guard.
I want somebody to come in and assess the situation and coach us and lead us to the next step. Because I think right now, it's a lot of supposition and hope and will that we'll be lucky and nothing's gonna happen here.
Well, we're
I'm
saying-
not reacting to the headlines. I was on this before Newtown. I brought this up in September in Buildings and Grounds because we had a laundry list of repairs and locks on doors and things like that were way down the list. And I struggled with it then, and I struggle with it now. I don't understand why this isn't a better priority.
Well, tonight we're not voting on that, we're not even
We're
voting
not
on
voting
this.
on anything.
Right, it's a two-phase thing. The first thing is, do we agree that there should be a job description for these functions? That's one vote. That's a separate vote from do we and how do we staff to fill the job description? Two steps. So the first step is, the superintendent is putting a job description for us to contemplate the date, tell me, and then the plan would be at next meeting to put the job description up to vote so that we can add it to our job roster. Then it becomes an official position so that we can go through the process of commitment with the other district, advertise it, interview candidates, and then come back and say, I believe I found the right person. The right person doesn't exist, and I think we should solve it some other way. Right, the first order of business, which is what I'm saying, do we agree that the job description is accurate? Whether it's done by existing staff, we say, yeah, we want all these things done well, or that you, if you had somebody that was free, that you hired, we just say, yep, that would be a job that one person can do. We still have to talk about finance and budget. Right, we have, right, so paying for it is not, and we recognize how important it is. We're nearly 7 figures beyond budget rate in terms of what we got to cut to make budget. Right, so I think we should discuss this on the merits of the job description. We can vote on it as a job description. We can add to the roster. We have other positions on the roster that are not filled. And then, if and when you find a candidate and you get commitment from the other district, that you have a viable candidate that can come in and do the quality job, we have to find the person too. And that person may come in and say, I only want to do this on a consultative basis. Terrific. Well, it solves part of our problem.
To that point, is that even though we developed a job description, if you went in the direction of a consultant basis as opposed to an employee, is that the job description could feed the requirements of whatever the contract is we might look to sign. So I don't see any problem with coming up with a list of things, whether it be called a job description or a request for proposal. To me, they would be synonymous. I mean, you have a job description for an employee and you have a request for proposal for somebody who's on the outside basis. So personally speaking, I don't have a problem coming up with a job description. If this is in fact the responsibilities that we want this person to do in the course of whatever time he spends with us. Can it be refined and a little better? Are you totally satisfied with this, or is there something else that we think should be on here that isn't, or is on here that really shouldn't be? I'm picking out one thing because I said here, number 15, train and supervise all security personnel. Well, who are the security personnel? We don't.
Currently, we do have personnel that work security.
Like
For example, if you go to a basketball game, we have staff in the basketball game.
Okay, those are the security people that you're talking about.
I mean, it could be anybody that's job is to do anything related to security, which could even be like a secretary.
Okay,
Part of their
someone
function
who's
of their job.
responsible for opening and closing the door.
Right, anybody like that, yeah.
Okay, all right.
They'd have to be able to, train them and supervise that. If you're talking about administrative assistant, probably the piece of their job that deals with security, I would want this gentleman or lady to guide.
Okay.
That makes sense. And I also wanted to add in that this has been reviewed and created with the superintendent of the other district, the chief of police of our town, the other district and I, what we talked about, if we do go to actually fill the position, would be the people who would do the hiring would be both superintendents and both chiefs of police. So it's a collaborative effort, everybody, and hopefully in for the same gains.
Okay, let's do finance.
Yes, Finance Committee did meet. today. Obviously, the biggest thing on our plate right now is the budget for the 13-14 school year. The only thing that we can say with 100% certainty are the dates that the budget has to be submitted to the state or the county offices. The first submission of the budget, the preliminary budget, has to be submitted by March the 7th, which is a Friday, and the final submission of the budget has to be somewhere around the 26th. I'm not sure of the 26th public hearing. Is that the last date of the public hearing, the 26th? So the final budget has to be to the state through the county office by March the 26th. In discussing the process of review today, it's going to require another meeting in March because the governor is not going to give his budget address until February the 26th. Our meeting is on the 26th. So we will not have state aid figures in place by February 26th, which is a Tuesday. We won't receive state aid until probably the Thursday. Could be Wednesday, but most likely will be Thursday. So we can't approve the preliminary budget on the 26th. We will have to approve the budget.
So you said preliminary budget, is that preliminary or final?
The preliminary budget on February, has to be in the county office by March the 7th.
That's the preliminary.
That's the preliminary budget. We want, our meeting is on February 26th, and the governor's giving his address on the 26th.
Right, but what is the final budget?
The final budget is due March the 26th. March, a month later. So if we just keep our current meeting on February 26th, we'll still be able to discuss the budget. We won't be able to vote on it because we don't have state aid. So the thought is to come back on March the 5th, which is the following Tuesday, and just pass the preliminary.
Just have a minor meeting.
A
Just
small
come in,
meeting
do one
to
thing.
pass the preliminary budget at that point in time. So we'll.
Does that, I'm sorry, Joe, does that final, maybe we should check this, is that final, it's sort of a technicality, because you're voting on, we know everything ahead of time except the state aid figure,
That's right.
right? Do we need to, does that have to be a public vote in order to submit it, or can we do a board vote in order to meet the date and then discuss it?
Well, I'm not sure I understand the difference.
In other words, since by then, we would already have submitted an initial budget. I'm sorry. We would already have been through the budget, we already would have in front of us a budget that says,
What date?
talk about the 26th.
February.
February 20th.
February, right, because that's the governor's address is,
That day, you
February
don't get your
26th.
state aid numbers
no, I
till
understand,
Thursday.
but what about everything except the state aid, right? Right, show of hands, anybody think the state aid is gonna double?
Yeah, but it could
go down by
it
a
could go
dollar.
up.
No, I understand that, but my point is, we will know everything about the $30 million budget, except what is the difference from current state aid to the new state aid, right?
Yeah, but that will dictate to some extent the bottom line, because your revenue, you won't have a solid revenue figure to match appropriations differences. So if your state aid goes up, then you can pass a higher budget. State aid goes down, and you have to pass a lower budget.
Yes, no, I understand that. We need to have, in the public meeting, you said we need to come back maybe on the Thursday, on the 5th, right?
Yeah.
Come back and say, okay, now that we got the official number, now we can come in, take a 7-minute call it out,
That's right.
right? It just seems silly to me. Why won't we, does that mean does that vote have to be a public vote?
Yes, it
So we're not
does.
really discussing
Yes,
it?
it does.
Yes.
It has to be a public vote. Yes, it does.
Okay.
All right, so, not knowing what our final bottom line budget will be, well, we will have to do that, and we did review, and the board received copies of a lot of information in terms of what presently is in the budget. Again, not knowing what our final bottom line is at the present time, assuming that there will be no increase in state aid, we presently are about $700,000 to $800,000 over what we anticipate, what we're anticipating at this point in time if state aid stayed the same. If state aid went up, and it could conceivably go up, it's been going up for the last few years, since the time you took all the state aid away from us, but it certainly is not going to go up by $700,000. Our state aid is only about $400,000, so if it goes up $50,000, that'll be a lot. So we have a lot of work to do. Items have been put in the budget, they've been prioritized. We have a list of these items. They're broken down into 3 categories, 3 priorities, 1, 2, and 3. And depending on what the bottom line eventually will be, some of them will make it into the budget and some of them probably won't. And we'll have to discuss that as we go along, certainly before.
So just make sure, so this 707 then is doable if we get an increase in state aid over what we presently get?
No, because we'll only to the extent that the state aid goes up. I
That's
mean,
what I'm saying, so if we get an increase in state aid, let's say we got an
If we
increase
got
in state aid.
700,000, we would have.
it's got 700,000
This is what
more,
we would do it.
we could do this.
Right, if state aid is flat,
If it's flat, then you gotta take 700,000 out.
which is, this list would go.
Right, the whole list would go, right.
There may be some things in that list that are meritorious, and we would want to.
Right, okay, so 2 things. One is, like, so on this list then, you should get this in order, like priority order.
It
It
is.
is on the last.
No, on the last column.
The last
The
pages.
Oh,
So the last page is the whole list the second time?
yes.
Oh, I thought that was on top.
The last page is
I'm sorry, so I got 3 pages. You're saying the first 2 pages,
All classes.
the first 2 pages is the detail, and this is the summary?
So the priorities on the right, and the far left-hand column.
They're part of it.
So this is all priorities 1, priorities 2, priorities 3, right? So if I add up all the ones, I would add up to whatever, $200,000. And then that's the
We
most
get
important.
$200,000 in additional state aid.
That's what you do. Well, if we got 0 in state aid, we need to come back at the next meeting and say, if we got 0, are we comfortable that we just tear this up? And that's that. Because if the answer to that is no, we still want to do some of these things, then we need to know what would come out,
Right.
right? The second thing I would say is we should be very conscious that this 707, I think is a little bit of a simplistic view on the budget. Because this 707 is 707,000 over what 2% would be.
Right.
But our combination of anticipated salary increase, healthcare increase, and the revenue shortfall, if you add those 3 together, those 3 things outweigh our 2% cap. So that means that in order to hit the 2% cap and pay for staff salaries, healthcare increase, and shortage in revenue, just to do that, we have to cut something.
Well, estimates have been made for those. Now, whether we've made accurate estimates or not, I don't know.
No, we made estimates for the cost. We didn't, what I'm asking is, we just need to be clear on what we cut already in order to meet the reality that if I add up the increased salaries, the healthcare increase, and the shortage, if you add those 3 up, that's great, that's a higher number than what the 2% cap allows us to raise in revenue, right?
Well, I don't know,
And then the base budget, Joe, we made the base budget work by cutting something else. That's what we do that every year. Because every year, those 3 things are greater than the revenue that we take in. Right? And then we're saying, and then on top of that, we're saying I got 707.
Well, sure, we can raise salaries up by 2%, just for projection's sake, right? And healthcare and all that. And that's into and that's already in the.
Right.
So we still have so that's in there, and we have $700,000.
The healthcare, that 11% health, that includes the 2% Obamacare thing? That's in the 11. So it's 11. That's 11 on $3-point-something million. That's $300,000.
Of the 500,000 increase that we
You get 580 tax revenue, 2% on a $16 million number, you get 300-something thousand in healthcare, you don't need to calculate, so all over the cap. So that means that just to do those 2 things, plus the $75,000 in revenue, that's greater than the revenue we took in. And then on top of that, I'm saying I got, if they're in ones, twos, and threes, then add up to $707,000. Right? So I think what we should do is just make sure that for the next meeting, we go through this freight, I'm not trying to, but for the public, there's a lot of people, we go through this is a freight train, you see those. It's like a freight train in a loop, one that comes through the tunnel, goes right around, right back out. Right. So what we need on this, the only way we've been successful in the past doing this is, you gotta just make sure that these things, because those days are gonna come quick. Like if we go into like this latency period now, where there's nothing to do until you really get that, until you get that statement from the governor's office, which is always gonna be 24 to 48 hours after his address. Right, and then we sit here, like I remember one year, we scrambled, we do it the same day, right? So we can just make sure you have like a couple scenarios, Mr. Forte, right? You just say, look, if the number was flat, here's what we would do. If the number was flat plus 200, here's what we would do. If it's flat plus 400, here's what we would do.
I would suggest that you at least come up with a potential list of cuts or deductions equal to all of the ones that are on your list. And then we could
In other words, if
debate,
you said take out the ones,
take out,
I'm saying,
or
say do the ones.
leave in the
If you were
ones,
flat, do the ones, what else
what
would
will
change?
come out.
Right.
And then we could debate whether the ones are valid or what's on the list.
So what I'm saying is do that now. I'm saying if there's a one in here that's more important than something that's in the budget today, make that change now.
So I have one little point, I actually met with Cheryl before on this a little bit too, just trying to figure out this priority list. So like, for example, there's the $40,000 for the teacher evaluation system. And then one of the questions I'd asked was, the bullying law, it has to be some funding for that or we can't implement it, right? So, is there any funding from the state for the 40,000? The answer was no. But on that same one list, there's technology needs $100,000. So like, I would think that this, so I'm not like, one is, we would get cited, fined, or in trouble if we didn't have a teacher evaluation system up to code. But if we need to do $100,000,
So I think for the next
yeah,
meeting, what we can get is just this list, and anything in here that.
like literally you can't do. Yeah,
Put in the
mandatory,
budget,
you have to
and then
do.
show what will come out. That should, and the thing that's in there now presumably be your next level one.
Well, I think even the one should be reclassified into absolute necessity.
Have to,
You have to do it.
you
now.
have to.
It shouldn't even be a one.
What I'm saying is, if it's an absolute necessity, put it in the budget now, assuming it's flat.
Yeah. Well, all these are in the budget right now. Correct.
No.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
there is
they
listed.
are in.
Listed. But no,
Listen,
it
if
should,
you listen in
yeah.
a document called the
Got it,
budget that you
yeah.
can never pay for.
Got it, yeah.
My definition of the budget is that which we have money to
Yeah.
pay,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah. That was exactly what, yeah.
So, back to that list. The point of that list is, if we were given a pot of money, this is everything we do.
Right, and I got,
So,
and this order. Right, all I'm saying is if that, for example, that mandated
yeah, what has to come out to get that?
teacher principal evaluation thing that the state, first of all, they should just do one for the legislature. If they could do one for themselves and make us pay for ours. But now we gotta find, we have to go find $40,000. And that's gotta be, if we're flat, we still have to do this stuff.
That's right.
I'm just having a hard time, if we're trying to find 40,000, but we can find 100,000 for tech needs and other things on this list, I'm thinking, it's exactly, I'm saying, well, 40,000 must not be that hard. That's why I'm a little concerned about the list in
That's all
general.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing we talked about in finance is that we put the list together, because if we didn't, we could have just come here and said, okay, we've got a 2% budget, and then there'd be no discussion.
It's important to have discussion because that's how the ideas come up.
Right. And I think we've done that the past couple of years, is we've put out there, this is the budget we'd like to see, but we know we never
Yeah,
can.
we have to do that.
Just while we're wrapping up committees, I know we have a fair number of teaching staff here that were here at the last meeting. I'm sure you guys are concerned and showing your unity around the ongoing contract negotiation. Contract for the Verona teachers expired June 30th, and we've been negotiating and working through that ever since, all the way till about 4 o'clock today. Rather than do it publicly, I would encourage you guys to hang around after the meeting, and I'll give you a personal update on what's transpired since last January and this afternoon at 4 o'clock. So you'll get some degree of comfort and hear from the board on where we are with the process, how it's going, what's happening, what's not happening, what's next, etc. Okay?
Superintendent's report.
I did. Okay, Ms. Jewett asked me to ask if there are any board members that did not sign up for a strategic committee for action items that she'd love to have you on there. So if anybody wants to do that, and you want to let me know tomorrow, I'll shoot her over an email, okay? So one of the things Mr. Quattrochi spoke about was a new special education class for year 13, 14. And it's basically what we have is we have one level of a class for a certain classification of students. Those students are aging out of our area. We have other students moving into that class, but we have nowhere for the kids that are aging out to go. So we can either send them out of district or create our own course, our own class for that. And you know, it's obviously there's a cost to it, and the cost to send the students out is more than actually keeping them in and starting the class. Just that there is a break-even point where if you don't have enough kids for the class, it's not really cost-effective to do it. I just want to let you know that we are also looking at some other options. Here's the things that we're looking at. One is actually co-oping with a different entity. I say entity because it doesn't have to necessarily be a town. It could be a jointure or a county special services department. We're looking to actually have a partnership with them, meaning not a said receive, but half the cost the course would be split in half, and the students would be split in half. So we would have half the kids in our class, and the other district or entity would have the other half. So we are looking at that. We're looking at bringing in tuition kids, and we're also looking at any other possible thing we could do with this course. But to me, it makes a lot of sense to offer the course, to offer the class in our own school, not just for the cost, but to keep our kids in our town if we can do it. So that's where I wanted to bring up. Obviously, it has a budget impact, but it's going to have a budget impact no matter what. We either have a course for approximately $210,000, or we send out students for approximately $300,000. So this is where we're at. Now, the next thing is, I just want to give you another update on security. On Friday, I will be going to the Bergen County Police Academy to hear from Lieutenant Colonel Grossman, who is one of the world-renowned speakers on school security. He's written many books and articles about it, and I think it was a good opportunity for me to actually go there, and there will be law enforcement and school officials. One of the representatives from the Verona Police Department is going to attend with me as well. You saw the security manager job description. We are finishing our repairs to the items that we identified as issues when we did our original first term phase 1 audit. The reason why some of the things haven't been fixed yet is because some of them had to be actually built. And, they're all ordered, they're being built, and then they'll be installed. And we did make a new visitor procedures in place, and from what I see, it is improved. Now, there's always room for improvement, and I like to say to the public, the staff, or parents, anybody sees something that's not normal, please let us know right away. In other words, if there's a door that's open or somebody's not being buzzed in, we want to know so we can correct it.
Just on that point, real quick, Steve, I think you're right. I think that during the school hours, it is very much improved.
You notice that?
But
I know.
how many people in this room walked in tonight with an open door? Thank you.
Go buzz. I know.
I don't know how we deal with that. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know how to reason. But I don't know what we, I don't know if it's possible to control that.
Yes.
I mean, every door around the building is open.
Well, I suggest that we hire somebody to help us figure it out.
And of course you do. But, I don't think it's going to take a security expert to realize that, schools are open places to a large degree, especially in college.
This school is an open place. I don't think they.
I don't know, I've
Night,
talked a lot of.
they don't have security guards, like.
Can we walk into MKA right now? Do you think if we walked on MKA?
If they were having a meeting, yeah, I think so.
A public high school.
I can't even get in the pool.
As a rule, for a public high school, from a person that's been in, I don't know, hundreds of them, from refereeing and coaching and just being around, I would say that the one difference might be that there's one point of entry, but that door is normally open. One point of entry, but the door is normally open. Now, a lot of places, it's not one point of entry. You could get in several different areas. So I know, like, I remember showing up and parking on the wrong side of the building and having to walk all the way around because the only entrance was on that side. So that's why I don't think that all these things can be accomplished without some personnel. Because I really don't see another way to organize how things would be done. I think what we would have, in my vision, would be, we would have somebody that walked around at night also and had some kind of duties to, obviously, a lot of things could happen.
I agree with that, and that's why I agree with, I don't disagree with the fact that we need additional security and maybe different kinds of personnel. I just disagree with having that whatever.
I put some sensors on the doors, so there's one central panel where you would see a light on and the door goes in.
But imagine how many times it would have gone off. And then there's got to be somebody to look at that.
That's
Like,
what I'm saying,
I know.
there's very few ways around.
But I do think that during the day, things are going to much better.
that's good.
When students are here, so I mean, that's.
Well, so here's the thing I don't want to happen. We're going out and saying to everybody, during the day, when your children are in school, our buildings are secure. I want to be able to say that. I want to be able to say they're secure and we're not opening the door for anybody. That's where I'm at. After school, I don't think we can do it without personnel. I just don't see how it can be done. Especially like in our school, we can have something going on in the old gym, something going on in the cafeteria, the auditorium, and in here.
The band room.
Right, the band room, you could have, so you really have to have somebody walking around. It's the only way, you can't even put gates up for that. You know, because it's just so many different areas, yeah.
I mean, Caldwell Community Center is open till 11 o'clock at night, there, pool, gym, basketball, there's someone at a desk, and people have to slide a card to get past the desk person.
Yeah,
Rush
yeah.
past the desk person, she's gonna press a buzzer, police station next to us. So it's not impossible, I think I get scared when we act like you can't prevent this. You can't say that.
Well, I know, Mr. Blino, in your district, when there's events at night, there's a person there.
And that's the function.
There's a person that's there, you know, they have one school, I know it's easier to manage. It's just,
What does that person do, Jeff?
Checks people as they come through the door.
What does that mean?
They just,
that
they
They don't have an ID card, they don't pass.
No, we don't, no, that's not what they do.
actually,
Well, that's Caldwell Community
what I
Center,
was
so
told is
is
that, that
that
person has a
out of
list of
realm?
all the people that are supposed to be in the building. I don't know if that happens, but I know that's what they're talking about. So moving on to
What
the
they did
next.
is they did restrict it to one door,
Right.
and one door is open, and all other doors are closed, and,
You know, you can also consider that person sitting there as a deterrent, possibly. Look, if you see nobody at all, you might be inclined to do something that's not good. Now, if you see somebody there who's paying attention, obviously not taking a nap, paying attention, it might be a deterrent.
I did know this, but that's fine.
Do you lock your doors?
We shouldn't lose sight of the,
You
so
lock
the
your doors
action,
in your house, right?
But I'm not a public building, come on.
Then why bother locking doors? If you really can't do anything, I don't get it right.
so the action plan that the superintendent had, that we talked about in the past, had a couple of steps to it, right? So the first step was to do an immediate assessment of current procedure that needs to be changed, and any hard equipment that has to be repaired, locked that doesn't work the way it's supposed to work, etc. So that was step one.
I mean, you order the doors, but.
Approved spending some money on certain things to do replacements. That was step one. Step two was to do an inventory and part of a plan as we prepare for what likely will be a referendum for other repairs to the buildings and maintenance that makes our security more comprehensive along the lines of what the police and the audit would tell us. And the third part of the plan, the third part of the action, which is the most difficult to cover, is how to secure the buildings at night when the cheerleaders are in FN Brown, and wrestlers are using landing at 9 o'clock at night, and HBO has got something else going on. You need to either have a physical presence in those buildings, or you need to have cameras and locks and all the rest of that to act as different kinds of deterrents. But part of that assessment is to determine what would be protecting you. The guy standing at the front door of the building is not going to protect against the guy with the assault. He's going to protect against people that look like they shouldn't be. Or he will be the first person shot. Depending on how you look. That's basically, right? So as we go through this, it's important to keep in mind, what we are trying to protect against. The goal is to protect against what happened in Connecticut. There's only one way to do it. There's got to be somebody stationed at the doors that's armed more heavily than the person trying to get in.
It's always that.
You can lock all the doors you want, but then there's windows everywhere. Bar the windows,
There's a lot of things.
it's endless. So what we thought we said was, let's go through this sort of sensibly, because if we had a guard in every building, the preliminary estimate on that would be about $1 million.
It was about $1 million just for the school hours.
To guard the school, not counting at night, to guard our 6 buildings during the day, would be close to $1 million a year, all in.
That would include covering lunches and all that other stuff.
Yep. So, and then at 3:30 though. So, so we have that, in the absence of any alternative approach, that's the current approach, right? And you did that together with Chief Huber and Township, you got your county contacts as part of that, the state, to a degree, together with the police and ourselves, right?
Right. I think one of the things I've been saying since we do it is, whatever we do has to be a sustainable, long-term solution. And I felt like this was a cost-effective way to come up with what I thought was a sustainable, long-term solution. So in other words, these measures that we put in place today, will they be in place 2 or 3 years from now? This person is the person that I want to guarantee does do that.
Did we pass that part?
Yeah, we did. Well, you guys brought it up again. All right, so here's some other things. I've been talking about this, and I actually did it now. I posted a comment on NJ.com that says, please don't get your news about the Verona schools from this source. Please email me directly. I have my email address right there. So every week I'm going to put it up at the top. I want mine to be the top thing.
I think what you're doing is you're giving credibility to one of the most asinine things ever invented by management.
All right, I agree with that, but here's my thing. All right, now, Mr. Quattrochi, here's my opinion on that. There are people right now that live in Bloomfield, Belleville, wherever else, thinking about maybe moving to Verona. And they might go, you know what, in our town, I go on this forum once in a while. Let me go see what's going on in the Verona forum. So that's why I want my quote to be at the top. It's not for the people on the forum that are actually getting their news from the forum. It's the people who are just coming on for the first time saying, let me learn a little bit about the schools, and this might be a way to do it. And there are actually people that do that. So I wanted my comment to be at the top.
Can I make a comment in addition to that, if there's meeting timing? I think take it a step further. If you want to get any news about Verona Public Schools, whether it's contract related or whatever it is, just go to the source. Just go to the Board of Ed. I know about a week and a half ago there was a newspaper article that came out regarding the field trip policy, in which it said that quote, citing needed revision was apparently what I had wrote in an email to Verona City Grove Times. In fact, I do have the email right here. So whether it's NJ.com or it is just from the newspaper source itself, I have several copies here which I can pass out to the community, whoever would like one at the end of the meeting. If you can find where it says I cited needed revision, please let me know. But this is the exact questions I got from the reporter, some of which I ignored, did not answer, did not feel was in good taste. But I have them here for anyone who would like a copy of it. So I think when it comes to news sources, please call me, 862-485-0841. Call John, and I'll say, if I saw the question I should answer, I'm going to say refer to the superintendent. My email, eunice@veronaschools.org. John Quattrochi, he's the head person for media and for contact as well. That's the best place to get the news. So wanted to share, thank you.
Okay, the next thing is, well, I also wanted to highlight that we have a track coach being indicted into the NJSA Hall of Fame. I think that's.
Indicted. Said indicted.
Sorry, he's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I just wanted to bring that up. Here's another positive thing. I worked with the Caldwell superintendent, the two of us together, were able to speak with the owners of the Cozen car dealer on Bloomfield Avenue. And we were gonna have a kickoff about this next Friday, but we are going to be announcing that any resident of Verona who purchases a car from there, or any resident from Caldwell who purchases a car from there, the Cozen will donate $200 to the school district of either town. So I thought that was a pretty positive thing. And next Friday at the Cozen, 10 o'clock, we're going to do a press release. We have several members of the media coming, and we'll make sure to include that in the Friday folder as well. The next thing I want to talk about is setting up a schedule of committee meetings that's better for everyone. This last one seemed like there were some problems with, so we want to work it out. We can start with education. Is education okay at the time we have? Which was in the morning, Tuesday, either Monday or Tuesday at 9? So that's good. And that's a conference call, right? Can't do this in a night. The next is, and with all that public speaking, community resources, we could leave that, I think, as needed.
If you want to 4:30, well, 4:30 for me would not work for that. 5 o'clock is fine.
We do as needed, 5 o'clock as a,
5:30, what could it still come?
you run community resources?
Oh, no, yeah, no, for community resources, if we have that, yeah, 4:30 won't work for
So
me.
5 o'clock
Yeah.
as in. So that one's probably gonna be like the off one, that won't be the same time during the meeting, okay? Conference call or in person?
Conference call is fine, just not at 4:30 for that one.
Okay, in athletics?
I recommend in person.
Okay,
It would, yeah.
so you wanna go to a different day? It's a different night, you have to do it because to move it the way you wanna move it, right now, we need full hours for B and G and finance.
Myself and Mike.
Well, here's the other,
You can do it, split, you could be there in person and dialogue.
That's true. Yeah.
What's 4:30?
No, 5:30, 5.
The only thing is it will have to be a different night.
Okay, so let me know.
Okay, are you okay with a different night?
Depends on where it's teach on person.
The reason being is that right now, we need an hour for B and G and finance.
but I don't think
For-
even those two should be on the same night.
Well, we need it in person.
Oh,
In that-
who's on them?
Alright.
All right. Because one runs into the next, and then we don't have time for finance.
I mean, if you do it like 5:30 on Monday, maybe, then,
I don't know if Dawn-
you're
The
supposed to
second
split
one
that.
of them,
Is it 5:30 Monday?
but we've always known.
What is it?
Good, but
I like 5:30 better.
I'm okay with it the way it is right now. I'm okay.
For the time being, until the budget is passed, so like maybe in April, we'll go back to half hour, we don't have to do 2 hours, right?
But it's just an issue now because the budget's gonna be approved in a month and we're running over,
Well, we won't run over there.
even when I start out.
We won't run over, at 6 o'clock.
You're done.
Okay? That's fair.
So maybe like 5:30 on Monday or something.
Right.
Monday, if you like, for any community resources before that, then just do athletics in person afterwards. And
The
then
community resources are really, it's as needed, so right now.
Exactly. Yeah, before when it comes up, you can back on Monday.
So Dawn, you're okay with that? Monday at 5:30? Is that live or conference call?
She'll be
I
conference
can make it on Monday.
Okay. And then B and G and finance, same thing, right? Because Tuesday nights, 5 to 6, and 6 to 7. Good? Okay, thank you.
Rest of resolutions?
Okay, resolved that the board approve resolutions number 1 through 3. Number 1 is the minutes from the January 22nd meeting, and resolutions 2 and 3 are personnel resolutions.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Lino, seconded by Ms. Deli. Any questions? Call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Aye.
Mr. Watt? Aye. Mr. Lino?
Yeah.
Mr. Yunus?
Aye.
Mr. Quattletti?
Aye.
Resolved that the board approve education and special education resolutions number 4 through 7.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lino. Any discussion? Let's take a minute, Mr. Forte, just explain the changes on the.
This is another change to the calendar. When the calendar's created in the beginning of the year, we're going under the assumption that it's possible the Friday prior to Memorial Day will be a no-school day if we don't use all the emergency closing days. Obviously, we use them. So to move the half-day from the Thursday to the Friday made sense. One of the board members brought it up. And so that's where we're at. We want to move the half-day from Thursday the 23rd to Friday the 24th of May.
Mr. Elliott?
Aye.
Mr. Watt? Mr. Lino? Mr. Yunus?
Aye.
Mr. Quattletti?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Education approve buildings and grounds resolution number 8.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Elliott, seconded by Mr. Lino. Any questions? Let's call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Aye.
Mr. Watt? Mr. Lino?
Yeah.
Mr. Yunus?
Aye.
Mr. Quattletti?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board approve co-curricular resolution number 9.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Yunus, seconded by Mr. Elliott. Any questions? Call the roll.
Mr. Elliott?
Aye.
Mr. Watt? Mr. Lino? Mr. Yunus?
Aye.
Mr. Quattletti? And resolve that the board approve resolution, addendum resolution, number 1, which is a personnel resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lino, seconded by Mr. Elliott. Any- Okay.
Mr. Elliott?
Aye.
Mr. Watt? Mr. Lino?
Yeah.
Mr. Yunus?
Aye.
Mr. Quattletti?
Aye. Okay, we'll open it up to any public comment or questions.
Hello, my name is Anthony Gardner. I have 3 children in Landing Avenue Elementary School. I wanted to make just a few comments about the discussion about a manager for security and disaster preparedness. I am well aware of the budgetary constraints. As a parent, I've been speaking to a number of other parents in town. I think many share the same concerns. Newtown has changed everything in so many of our minds. It's something that I think about every day when I drop my children off. I understand the inclination to say this is something that is a very rare event, it's not going to happen, bad things like that aren't going to happen to our town. I can't just rationalize, look at that and say, okay, that's an excuse to not do anything about it. So I think what the superintendent is proposing is a very common sense, first step approach to addressing this. I think the fact that Chief Huber and the town officials have supported this approach further underscores the importance of doing this. Morgan Stanley, on September 11th, they had 2,500 people in the South Tower. 6 people out of 2,500 people died that morning because their security advisor, first of all, they had a director of security who was drilling, doing repeated evacuation drills, and because they invested in that kind of commitment to disaster preparedness, all of those people lived. So it's what value do we put on the lives of our children? But not only our children, our educators, our teachers. The teachers at Newtown were the first responders during that active shooting event. And if, God forbid, something happened here, they'd be our first responders. They should be trained. There should be a person who has that accountability, who could be well-versed in security issues, the expertise that, unfortunately, I don't know that our principals or administrators have. So I think there would be overwhelming support for something like this amongst the parent community. And, I just wanted to offer that comment. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Our next meeting is Tuesday night, February 26th, beginning with confidential at 7 p.m. and a public meeting at 8 o'clock. If the teachers want to hang around, we'll go through the contract.